It's one of the sadder stories I've ever done. We're talking about Riley Hancey. Apparently, in Utah, we have a problem. We have a problem in general with marijuana laws in this country. We all know this. This one's a specific problem that's happening time and time again. I think I just did a story about it last week about how, you got your people that, or a guy, I believe it was in Oregon or maybe somewhere else, got taken off of a kidney transplant list because he tested positive for marijuana. He uses medical marijuana. And the doctor says, oh, well, if you use marijuana, you might have this bacterial infection or fungus that's in basically everything. So therefore, we can't do any surgery, or we can't even have you on the list. Well, here we have another situation. Park City man denied lung transplant at the U due to trace of marijuana. Dies after procedure in Pennsylvania. So on the outs, you're looking at it like, okay, he was denied at the University of Utah. Shipped him over to Pennsylvania, does the procedure, and then dies from complications. You might think, well, that sounds like something that could happen. It probably didn't have much to do with this whole, getting denied and having to go to a different place. You'd think that, but if you look at the timeline involved, you might think otherwise. So, Park City man who was refused a lung transplant at the University of Utah after doctors found a trace of marijuana in his system died Saturday at the hospital of the University of Pennsylvania. Riley Hancey and his family celebrated his 20th birthday last week with cake and balloons, weeks after he had undergone a double lung transplant after a severe bout of pneumonia last Thanksgiving. The outdoor enthusiast was admitted to the U hospital on December 2nd, his father said, and was put on life support 2 weeks later. He was denied transplant eligibility at the U in early April after traces of THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, the main active ingredient in marijuana, were found in his system. At the time, Mark Hancey said his son smoked it with his friends on Thanksgiving after a year of being drug-free. So, as we've heard many times, and as we know, and as anybody will tell you that knows anything, marijuana stays in your system longer than any other substance that there is. In fact, it's stored in your fatty tissues because, like anything else that gets stored in your fatty tissues, your body saves stuff that it needs for later if there's an overabundance of it available. So he smoked it on Thanksgiving. That was, and then on December 2nd, when he was admitted, I don't know if that's when they tested him, but in early April, we're talking 4 months later. No, we're talking 5 months later, because he smoked it basically in late November. So a little more than 5 months later, he still had traces of THC in his system. Now, most of these urine tests for jobs and other things, they'll allow for a certain amount of THC to be in your urine, I think, to kind of, just in case something might give it a false positive or whatever. They might make you take a more detailed test or something, but what this is if they find even a trace amount, something happened. What happened exactly? In a statement at the time, the U said it does not comment on individual patient cases, but university spokeswoman Kathy Willits said under the hospital's transplant policy, quote, We do not transplant organs in patients with active alcohol, tobacco, or illicit drug use or dependencies until these issues are addressed, as these substances are contraindicated for a transplant. All right, slow down. What? What? So you're saying if somebody, God forbid, smokes cigarettes, I just quit smoking cigarettes recently. 30 years of smoking cigarettes didn't get me nowhere. Probably got me sicker than I wanted to be a lot. But I wouldn't want it to be some kind of a reason why I couldn't get a lung transplant. Because, come on. Cigarettes are probably why you need the lung transplant. Unlike this poor gentleman, that wasn't the case here. But what we have here is this crazy policy that's way overreaching. We're talking about, you're talking about alcoholics, so you're going to make an alcoholic, and as it says, let me see. First of all, we're going to see what contraindicated means. A lot of people might not know what this means. Contraindicate or contraindicated. It basically means suggest or indicate that a particular technique or drug should not be used in the case in question. So it basically means these substances aren't supposed to be used when you're getting a transplant. Well, no shit. But, all right, so you go to their, what's their solution? Patients remain ineligible at least until undergoing a treatment or cessation program. Well, it's added. So you're going to make an alcoholic withdraw from alcohol as he cessation. That means you quit doing the substance altogether. Nicotine, you're going to make someone try to quit smoking before they get a lung transplant. You're going to make someone try to quit drinking before they get a lung transplant or some other surgery. Isn't that illegal? I mean, I don't get that. I don't understand how you can deny somebody a surgery just because, in your opinion, their alcohol or their cigarettes or their marijuana in this case isn't applicable to the procedure at hand. Well, who cares? And by the way, we haven't really focused enough on the fact that this is 5 months after the alleged smoking of marijuana. And I take these people at their word. I don't know why anybody wouldn't. But when they say he was just celebrating a year of being clean, I don't know if they're talking about marijuana, because we are talking about Utah. And I know in my hometown area of Flint or Detroit, when you talk about, I'm clean for a year, you're usually talking about alcohol or heroin or crack or something, methamphetamines, not really usually in the city too much, but I mean, alcohol is the big one. That's the one everybody's like, oh, I'm 1 month clean, 6 months clean. People keep track of that kind of shit with alcohol. But with weed, maybe in Utah, I don't know, but who knows? I mean, I'm not going to knock somebody's, affinity for saying, oh, I've been clean for a year on no matter what it is. Like if you quit something and you're done, quit it for a year and that was your vice, then I'm proud of you. That was good. That was a good thing. Back to the hospital here. So, yeah, they're going to tell you have to quit whatever. So he's sitting there at the hospital. He can't quit it. He's in the hospital. Obviously, he can't just whip a joint out and start smoking it. Treatment, I don't get that. Are you going to make someone go to treatment just because they tested positive for a trace of marijuana? I don't understand why this was still a roadblock. The marijuana was just a trace amount. There's no way he's going to be able to do any more marijuana while he's sitting in your hospital. Let's explore that a little bit more. Riley Hancey was denied from the U. Mark Hancey said the family searched for hospitals across the country for nearly 2 months. And don't forget, he was in the hospital for like 5 weeks. We get to that. UPenn added him to his transplant list and moved him to Philadelphia on March 11th, where he waited in ICU for a matching donor lungs. Doctors there performed a double lung transplant on March 29th. So the timeline, he's basically only there for a couple of weeks and gets a transplant. Some family members took to social media and other online forums on Sunday, that just yesterday, I'm probably going to be a couple days from now when I finally upload this. But anyway, to share the news of his death. His older brother, Zachary Hancey, posted a statement from the family on his personal Facebook page that thanked the medical staff at the UPenn and the U for their care. I don't know why you would thank the people at the University of Utah. And he thanked the family of the donor whose lungs Riley received during his transplant. Riley spent more than 68 days in the ICU at University Hospital, according to a UCaring page created to help the Hancey family out-of-pocket expenses related to Riley Hancey's care. The page further describes how he relied on a tracheotomy and a lung machine to provide oxygen to his blood. That's it. Would he be alive today if he didn't sit in this hospital in Utah, at the University of Utah, from December 2nd all the way to whenever, and then he didn't get to this other place till March 11th, and he didn't get the transplant till finally at the end of March. That's like 4 months. All of December, January, February, and March. All of March. He didn't get it till the end of March. I don't know, man. It just doesn't feel right. I feel like this Utah policy here is bullshit. Especially with marijuana. He was in your hospital so damn long that there's no way he was still high. What do you think he was doing? Sneaking out to the parking lot? It doesn't look like he's in any condition to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and chalk this up as an unnecessary death. I don't know if that's really a legal term or not. But I'm going to consider this an unnecessary death. And I'm going to lay this death at the feet of the policy enforcers of this policy. Because even though this policy is garbage on its own and is probably partially responsible for this person not getting the surgery when he could have, which is when it comes to this pneumonia and getting a double lung transplant, my guess is this is the kind of surgery you don't want to put off. It's the kind of surgery you want to get like right now. Now, would the complications, perhaps the complications didn't have anything to do with the fact that he didn't get the surgery right off. That's a possibility. I don't know much about medical science, and I'm not a doctor, so I don't really know. And I haven't seen any more statements coming out about that. You know, there's a lot of different ways that a double lung transplant could go wrong. I'm going to just go ahead and guess as pretty much a layman when it comes to surgery and transplants and such. I mean, this is the year 2017. I'm guessing we got pretty good odds of pulling through. I don't know what his chances were coming in or going in to this surgery in Philadelphia. And I don't know anything else about it. So I'll just give everything the benefit of the doubt at Utah and say that, you know, the complications were totally because of just something that was complicated in general. Because of the lungs or because of something that happened in the procedure, some kind of infection or something. Whatever the case may be, you can take the blame off of Utah and say it was because of something else. All right. Even if you say that, you're still saying that we don't know. If he would have got the surgery at Utah, we don't know if there would have been complications. it's a sad story, and I don't know what else to say about it, except for, once again, even though this policy is garbage on its own, the enforcement of it is really what was the detrimental thing to this situation. Because by kind of being ignorant to certain things about marijuana, like that it stays in your piss or your blood for a long period of time, and it stays in your fat even longer. So depending on how you test for it, you're going to find it way down the road. You're going to find traces of it way on down the road. So this policy is garbage, and enforcing it the way they did probably endangered this person's life. That's all I'm going to say about it. I mean, it would be irresponsible for me to say that it was the complete fault of the University of Utah. It'd be irresponsible for me to be like, you know what, guys, shame on you for this shitty policy. Shame on you for enforcing it, knowing that he wasn't high on marijuana, knowing that this trace amount of marijuana in his system couldn't not have complicated the operation. When you ship them off to another hospital, I think you're just as liable for a wrongful death suit as if you would have had the complications there, and later on down the line, someone was like, oh, look, he had trace amounts of marijuana in his system, so we're going to sue you for malpractice for performing the surgery even though he had that marijuana in his system. I mean, even if that happened, you probably, just like I would be irresponsible to say that you guys completely caused this death, you would be irresponsible for saying that you didn't have nothing to do with it, or that this policy isn't responsible for people dying all the time. Because it sounds like, we do not transplant organs in patients with blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of times when people died in emergency room situations because of this policy. And I mean, I'm going to guess that it's ugly. But this example right here is very tragic and sad. That's all I got on it. Hopefully I can make some more videos. Who knows? I hardly have time, but there's been a lot of shit going on in the background, as always. Look for me on footage of stuff going on in Flint, I guess, because I'm always up in there.